Prior to him being murdered, he had posted on Instagram, if anybody kills me, I'm snitching right now, it's Champagne Poppy. I'm paraphrasing, but something to that effect, right? So imagine the decedent said prior to his death, if anybody kills me, it's Champagne Poppy, which is Drake's Instagram name. I laid out in extreme detail all of my defense witnesses. I set a notice of hearing, went and served Drake in his castle in Beverly Hills.
There was this deposition that was taken of XXXTentacion's mother, Cleopatra Bernard. She testified that Onfroy had this ongoing feud with Mr. Graham, Aubrey Graham, Drake. The question I want to start with as we get into the Drake conversation, were you arguing, or is appellate attorneys arguing that Drake was a part of this killing, that he was the one who did this?
And as messy as Drake is right now, I can almost bet that there's somebody that wants to turn his faucet off. Because if y'all think Diddy is a mess, Drake?
So wait, are they saying that this man paid off the judge?
Oh yeah, DDGotAPodcast.
So I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. 2024 is easily the craziest year of my lifetime. And even though we have just a month left in the year, it continues to find new ways to get even more crazy. Now, if you haven't heard the news, Drake has officially been, well, I probably shouldn't say officially, because he was already named well over a year ago while the case was taking place. But his name has now been reintroduced as a possible suspect in the death of XXXTentacion, according to the defense attorney.
That goes beyond just the regular post, anybody kills me, which I'm blicked up, which is a slang for I'm armed. Okay, when we took the deposition of the decedent's mother, when Mr. Kimmock asked the question, why did you have security with him that day? Her answer was because the beef that he had with Migos and Drake. So the decedent's own mother is saying that the reason that she felt unsafe and wanted extra security with him on the day was because of this issue with Drake and Migos. Meek is another rap group that recently was in the news because one of its members was suspected gang ties. They attacked Mr. Onfroy, and it said that they attacked him based on this problem that they had with Drake. Mr. King posts something where he says that when he discussed with Mr. Graham, when he usually discusses with Mr. Graham, and he's gonna run up on somebody or do something to somebody, he usually tells him not to do it, but in this occasion, he shrugged it off. This is Mr. King posting it. So there's plenty of information that goes beyond just the regular post, if anybody, which I'm arguing to the court is more than sufficient to allow me to take his deposition.
But let me back up a little bit. So XXXTentacion was a rapper in the hip hop community who was unalived back in 2018 outside of a dealership in Florida. He had like $50,000 cash on him. Some guys ran up on him outside of the dealership, robbed him, unalived him, unfortunately took his life, and were later caught, went through the proper process, and were later to be found guilty because they were literally on camera doing this. The defense attorney during the trial mentioned other people, including Drake, as potential people that were not investigated enough. Now, I want to be clear about this before people hop in the comment section and try to misconstrue what I'm saying. While the attorney never said out of his mouth, yes, Drake had something to do with it, or yes, I believe Drake may have had something to do with it. What the attorney is doing, because many people will argue, well, he's a defense attorney. It's his job to find other suspects or to deflect attention from his client. That's his job. Well, here's the problem. His client is on camera stalking XXXTentacion throughout the store. His client is also, from what my understanding, it's proving with, CTV cameras, who did this. Like, there's no question who unalived him. It's on camera proving that these men pow this man. So it begs to the question, if your client is on camera unaliving a person, why are you mentioning the fact that the police and the justice system did not and have not done a good enough job investigating Drake's involvement? My theory, and this is alleged, this is just my theory, before we go and listen to what the attorney had to say himself, my theory is that his client may have told him that whoever, if they were commissioned to carry out this crime, as in they knew what XXXTentacion would be, they got word that they would be protected, all these things. My theory is that his client may have told him that they were led to believe that Drake was behind whoever commissioned them to take out this murder, allegedly. That's my theory. But they won't come out and just say that, because without solid proof and without concrete solid proof, you lose a lot of credibility as an attorney when your number one goal should just be trying to clear your client or get the best case scenario for your client in this case, right? So without further ado, let's go and take a listen to what the attorney had to say. And I got one more thing, and I'm going to tell you all what I think is about to happen to Drake, very similar to Diddy. So stick around. Before we go over to see what the attorney said, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for being here. Let's go check out what the attorney had to say.
Now, as I mentioned, Williams is appealing this decision, and a big focus of this is on Drake. It's also other issues that they're bringing up, so I want to get into it right now. And for that, I want to bring on Williams' defense attorney, Mauricio Padilla. Thank you so much for coming on, Mauricio. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for coming on right afterwards. So I wanted to talk about this with you, and we're going to get into more specifics of the appeal. But overall, big picture, big theme, what are you and the rest of the defense counsel arguing here?
Well, I am not arguing it. I'm not his appellate attorney. I was the trial counsel. So I'm just referencing what Mr. Patanzo, which is his appellate attorney, has stated in the brief. There's so many errors that it takes a while to even break it down. One of the main errors in my opinion in the case, which I had to sit through, argue, and live it, was the fact that in December of 2020, I filed a witness list. The state's reaction to that was to file a motion saying, we want the court to strike all of his witnesses, that's not even something that's legal or that you could do. You have to itemize who you want stricken. You just can't shotgun approach and say, I want all of his defense witnesses stricken. But the state attorney did that. In a hearing that I had to defend, myself to that in that motion, the court didn't grant that, but the court instructed me to file a pleading, which was the nexus in my defense witnesses and what nexus they had to my theory of defense, which I argued was inappropriate because at the end of the day, you're ordering me to give the state a blueprint of what my defense is going to be. But I was ordered to do it, and I did it. When prior to Mr. Onfroy, which I'll refer to him as X for this interview because his stage name was XXXTentacion, which was the victim in this case. Prior to him being murdered, he had posted on Instagram, if anybody kills me, I'm snitching right now, it's champagne popping. I'm paraphrasing, but something to that effect, right? So imagine the decedent said prior to his death, if anybody kills me, it's Champagne Poppy, which is Drake's Instagram name. I laid out in extreme detail all of my defense witnesses list, which included many rappers, because at the end of the day, the victim in this case was a rapper. He had feuds, ongoing public feuds with not only Drake, but a lot of rappers that are either signed to OVO or related to Drake in some way, including 600 Breezy, which is a Chicago-based rapper, and a rapper that's from Toronto by the name of, he goes by Top 5, which is Hassan Ali. And I had to lay that all out in detail. The court was fully aware of my theory of defense. Prior to that, I filed a motion to perpetuate the testimony of Livingston Allen, which goes by the name of DJ Academics, because DJ Academics was friends with X and had posted long YouTube, content regarding this beef. He actually posted YouTube saying that he was on the phone with X discussing the issue and the beef that he had with Drake, and specifically, X had either said or posted something about Drake's mom, and he had posted a picture of a Drake lookalike with semen on his face, and he wanted DJ Academics to post it on his own site. And he said, I'm not going to do that. And in that conversation, DJ Academic says that you better be careful, because even though, like, and I'm paraphrasing again, even though he's not a gangster, you may be pushing him. As a reaction to that conversation, X goes and says that he takes it out off the post off of his website or off of IG, and he says that his Instagram was hacked. I laid that out in my motion to perpetuate the testimony, which a motion to perpetuate testimony is when you have a witness that is relevant to your defense and that lives beyond the jurisdictional limits of the court, and that you feel that you're not going to be able to bring them into court. So I'm basically asking the court to allow me to go to California or wherever I have to go, depose this individual, and now with his deposition, if he doesn't show up, I could use it in my defense or in my case in chief, right? So I did that, argued it to the court, and the court, in a reaction, basically said, I'm not going to grant your motion to perpetuate testimony, just take his depo. Let's just take it. So, okay, fine. I set a notice of hearing, went and served Drake in his castle in Beverly Hills.
There's something that you mentioned, and I want to talk about this. So first of all, there was this deposition that was taken of XXXTentacion's mother, Cleopatra Bernard. She testified that Onfroy had this ongoing feud with Mr. Graham, Aubrey Graham, Drake. She said this feud with Graham included throwing shots at Onfroy and lyrics from one of Graham's songs. You mentioned that controversial statement that he made, if anyone tries to kill me, it was champagne poppy. The question I want to start with as we get into the Drake conversation, were you arguing, or his appellate attorneys arguing that Drake was a part of this killing, that he was the one who did this, or are you arguing that it should have just been allowed, you should have been allowed to present evidence to suggest there were other potential leads that law enforcement really didn't look at into this case? So again, what exactly we're suggesting? Are you suggesting that Drake had a part in it, or that just it wasn't looked into and it shows a sloppy investigation and not a fair trial?
Well, in the brief and in what I was arguing in court is the latter. We are a defendant has every right to defend himself and to show reasonable doubt wherever it may be, and to fully investigate and articulate to a jury an alternate shooter defense or an alternate, a defense where someone else, committed this crime. Am I going to sit here and tell you that Drake was holding a gun or Drake? But the facts as they are stated by X's own mother is that she knew about the beef with Drake and with Migos. She knew about the violence between Migos and her son, where there was a violent episode. She knew about 600 Breezy, which is a known admitted gang member from Chicago, going to South Florida and posting on social media saying that he's blicked up, which means that I have a gun, and she was concerned about it. She testified in the depot that she discussed it with her son. She testified that the reason that she wanted additional security with him the day he died was because of this beef with Migos and everything that we're discussing. So it was relevant. And for many months during the trial, January, February, even February 7th of 2023, the judge is agreeing with me. Okay, now there comes a moment and a hearing. He goes ahead and Drake hires, after the judge enters a rule to show cause, basically saying a purge date. You have to appear for depo on this day, or I'm going to do a writ of bodily attachment. He then goes and hires Brad Cohen, a friend of the show, friend of mine as well, an excellent attorney. And Brad files several motions, motion to quash the subpoena, and he files a motion for protective order. We go back and forth, and the judge says, and the first time that Brad shows up to court, he says, you know what, I'm gonna quash the rule to show cause. He's hired counsel. You guys can communicate and figure out when this step was gonna happen. Okay, so we go back and forth. We can't agree to it for various reasons, and I'm not gonna get into settlement negotiations
Sure.
On the show, but we can't agree. We go into court February 24th, I believe, on his motions. At that time, James Beard, which is the process server that served Drake, appeared as a witness, and I wanted to show video that he took of the actual attempted service where it shows Drake's bodyguards or the people that are in front of his house refusing to cooperate. It showed one of Drake's employees kicking the subpoena down the road that leads to his mansion. And the judge didn't allow me to show that. Despite not allowing me to put forth that evidence, the judge did a 180 from telling me to figure it out, coordinate it, take the depot, did a 180, told me, why are you involving him? Granted the motion for protective order, granted the motion to quash my subpoena, allowed Mr. Cohen to argue California law without having a California expert there, and basically kind of chastised me about, why are you bringing them into it? And as a matter of fact, we had taken the deposition of one of X's relatives regarding this beef, and she denied it. And the court said in open court, even his relative said that it didn't exist. And I said, yeah, well, she's lying because the whole world knows about this beef. So for her to sit here and say that she didn't know about it it's on her credibility. So despite all of this, he does a 180. He not only grants the motion for protective order, basically saying that I can now serve him again.
Okay.
And it quashes the subpoena, but the state attorney, sensing there's blood in the water, says, Judge, I'm going to renew my motion to strike all his witnesses. Okay? Or tennis, no notice. And he says, I'm not going to do that, but I am going to strike Mr. Graham. So he struck in the middle of the trial. He struck Drake from my witness list, which is completely inappropriate, considering the history of the case.
Talk to me real quick about why you think the judge did this, because in the appellate brief, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is an accusation that the court might have been biased because of Drake's celebrity status. Correct me if that allegation is wrong. And in your opinion, why do you believe the court ultimately wouldn't allow the deposition of Drake?
I'll say that Judge Usong was a complete gentleman to me, and it was a pleasure to try the case in front of him. I do think that he made various reversible errors, and I think from the beginning he made a lot of calls that were unconstitutional, not legal, this being one of them. I don't want to speculate as to why, but when you're dealing with someone like Drake, which he's not a celebrity, he's a super celebrity. He's like in the stratosphere of fame. So when a judge does a 180 like that, I'll let the viewers or other people figure out why they think that it happened.
Now notice the attorney was asked the question, are you saying that Drake was involved in this? And notice that the attorney had very, very interesting, and he was very careful with his response to that question. And once again, a lot of people have theorized, of course, a lot of the fans and people on social media, that don't mean that Drake is actually guilty. Let's be clear about this. And that's where I stand as well. Just because the fans think this, do not mean that he's actually guilty. But when you look at a lot of the stuff surrounding it, this isn't a fan that's doing it. This is an attorney. And the fact that the judge dismissed it the first time was unconstitutional. And it makes you wonder, wait, if this clears him and he has no involvement, this attorney has every right to put this person down as a witness or to put this person down as somebody that they can use in their case. Your celebrity status, right? Your popularity status should not exempt you from being able to be questioned or having to come to court if it is proven that you have relationship ties to this person that was unalived and or the case in itself. It's well documented that XXXTentacion and Drake did not get along. And like the attorney said himself, XXXTentacion said himself, right, like not long before he was unalived, if something happens to me, I'm snitching right now and I'm saying that Drake did it. Like, of course he could be wrong about that. Anything could happen to him right after that post. But the fact that he said that, and then you consider the fact that Drake is in the video sicko mode with Travis Scott, they got this XXXTentacion lookalike, and you alluding to doing things and taking people out and being linked up with the mob ties. It's just not a great look. But here's my last point before I make this video. I don't want to make this video too long. Here's my last point I want to make. Whether Drake is guilty or not, Drake may have nothing to do with this. Absolutely. But let me make sure y'all understand something. For decades, Diddy has been able to get away with a lot of things. And I believe all these people are demonic. I believe all of them worship Satan. I don't just think that just because it's a conspiracy theory. I have concrete reasons why I believe it, and we can talk about that in another video, even though I've made several videos on it, and I have a lot of good evidence to support that claim. Remember, Diddy was able to get away with a lot of stuff for decades. The moment he decided to sue that liquor company, I don't care where you fall on the spectrum, I think a lot of us agree, that's when everything changed for him. He stepped out of line and all of that. Well, look at what Drake is doing now. Not even 3 days ago, it's being reported that this dude is suing two lawsuits, or they're either lawsuits or something else, but either way, he is accusing his own record label of not only conspiring against him with these diss tracks from Kendrick Lamar, but he's also alleging that they conspire with Kendrick Lamar to boost his views and to defame his character and say untrue things about him, such as him being a pedophile. I think this is a tricky space to be in if you're Drake, because the fact that this attorney is now trying to reintroduce him into this case, he may not get as much favoritism, or it may not go his way this time. That's all I'm saying, right? And another thing I want to just say out loud is, if Lucian Grange, who Drake has rapped about being, tell Lucian I said F it, I'm tearing holes in my budget. If he had such a great relationship with these people, but you're also alleging that they conspired against you to have one of the most lethal takedowns as far as hip hop beefs that we've ever seen in hip hop history, then it makes me wonder, what have they done for you? Why would they help Kendrick? Why would they work with Kendrick? Y'all signed to the same label. Why should they favor you? Why should they show you favoritism? Right? I'm just saying, this is looking very similar to the Diddy situation. You stepping out of line. You got this whole situation over here that you passive aggressively and sneak dissed in your music and sneak alluded to in your music, wanting to take credit for it like you're this huge mob boss. Well, you might just get what you ask for if you're not careful. That's all I'm saying, man. Right? If you make your bed, you got to lay in it. And sometimes with your current situation, you already lost a lot of points from a lot of hip hop heads for even suing to begin with. You just don't look right, bro. And now it can get even trickier. Y'all up in the comment section, you give me your thoughts. I'd love to know what you think. I'm Demetrius. I go by Didi. That's all for this one. Until next time. Peace.
Oh yeah, Didi got a podcast.